Resistance.
Well, I just want to say that resistance is not always a bad thing. You can reframe it. You know, the resistance that an airplane gets to the way the wings are designed is exactly what creates lift. So not all resistance is bad. In fact, I would say that it's a necessary component that refines the vision and makes it possible to go faster and bigger than you thought possible at the beginning. But let me give you an example. We came up with this idea of the full focus planner, and I can remember thinking to myself, this was kind of internal resistance, really, we're going to get back into publishing, because that kind of been my background. Several people in the company had been involved in publishing, and we had this beautiful, highly profitable online business. So initially I had this internal resistance, like a physical product, we're going to take on inventory. I mean, that's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars, all the hassles of distribution and fulfillment and all that. So I had a lot of internal resistance. Then when we announced it, I started getting all this pushback. So people said to me, you know, it's 2017. That's when we first published it, as though, you know, we've got all these digital tools now, and this felt like a huge throwback to the past. And, you know, maybe I was, you know, being a Luddite for publishing an analog planner. But that was real resistance, because I don't like being made fun of. But I thought, no, there's really something to this. This is really important. But it helped me to refine the reasons why we were doing it, and to go deep into the research and rediscover exactly what benefit this was going to have over a digital solution. Tenacity is one of those things that is critical to the achievement of any vision, because again, you're going to get the resistance, and almost immediately, almost when you commit it to paper and begin to visualize it, you're going to encounter the resistance, either internally or externally. So one of the things that I knew when I started this business, and back then, you know, it was just basically me, and I was going to write a book that was going to help me accomplish my vision, because I knew that if I had a book, and I knew if I had a best-selling book, that book would be a huge help in launching my speaking platform, in drawing attention to the business, and getting, you know, consulting clients and all the rest. But as I started, it was really difficult in writing that book, and I began to encounter the resistance internally. I can remember putting together the first draft of the manuscript. I was a month late in getting it done. And I thought, oh, part of it was I just procrastinating, part of it was I was busy out on the road speaking. But when I finished that first draft, I remember thinking to myself, this is terrible. You know, this sucks. I mean, I don't know how to sugarcoat it. I just thought this is not any good. And I gave it to the editor and I said, well, here it is. It's a month late. And to be honest, I don't think it's very good. And so I wanted to give up. I literally thought maybe I should give the advance money back to the publisher and try something else. Thankfully, I had a very kind editor who said, no, let me go to work on it. I think this is going to be fine. And so she went to work on it and produced the manuscript. And when I got it back, I thought, this is better than I thought. But it was that resistance to quit before I'd really barely begun. And I think that's sort of emblematic of what everybody encounters when they pursue a vision. There's going to be something that usually happens at the beginning that's going to make you want to quit. But tenacity is the secret to overcoming that. Just staying with it. And the thing that got me to stay with it in the midst of that was refocusing on the vision. And thankfully, I'd written down all the reasons why that book was important, all the things I hoped to accomplish with it. It made me continue with the project when I wanted to quit.
Don't you think, too, that the bigger your vision and maybe even the more important it is, the more resistance you're going to face?
Totally.
I mean, I think sometimes we feel like maybe the resistance is telling us that we're doing the wrong thing. Like, what does it mean? Is it an early indicator that I'm on the wrong track? And that is like kind of what's sneaky about it, you know, and really insidious, is that it can undermine our confidence and cause us to give up. But in reality, it's the opposite. It's usually indicative that what we're pursuing really matters.
Well, nothing important goes unopposed. And Stephen Pressfield, as we've noted on this show a few times before, wrote a great book called The War of Art, which is all about overcoming the resistance. In fact, he's really written 3 books in that series about overcoming resistance, which if you're an artist or a creator of any kind, it's really important to read. If you're a CEO, it's a really important.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're an entrepreneur, it's really critical.
Yeah, I think that's the challenging thing, is to know the difference. Seth Godin wrote a book on that called The Dip. How do you know when you can read your circumstances and it's just not a good project, it's just not worth pursuing. And I can think of when we created Your Best Year Ever. We were so excited about that. We created the course, 5 Days to Your Best Year Ever. And we thought the natural segue to that, because we had people asking for it, was to create that leaders edition of it. And I think we may have talked about that on the show in the past. But we were so enthusiastic about it. We filmed the entire series. We put together the workbook. We created a beautiful sales page. We went to launch it, and it was crickets. We got one order. Big campaign, all that. I mean, we thought there had to be something wrong technologically. There's no way we could only have one order. But that was the truth. We only had one order. Well, that was a situation where we said, this is not just the resistance. This is just a bad idea. But kind of to my point earlier about the resistance kind of being, the thing that gives you lift, it was from that we developed our live event, the 5 Days to Your Best Year Ever live event, which was a huge success for our company. We realized that, people wanted to train their teams, but they wanted to bring their teams to us, not do it themselves.
Well, I think there's an important distinction between tenacity in your commitment to your vision and a willingness to change strategy. So sometimes what really needs to happen is you need to change your strategy, which is not the abandonment of your vision. It's your strategy for accomplishing it. And I think that is helpful. We kind of go through a conversation about that. Is the strategy the thing that we need to adjust? How else could we accomplish this vision? And usually that is what enables them to stick with the vision. Very occasionally we'll let something go, but mostly it's an issue of strategy, not an issue of vision. I think we have to be alert to that though, because if we confuse those two things, they can feel the same and we can kill the wrong thing. This happened to us actually when we launched the Full Focus Planner. So, we have, as a part of our vision script, the document that really contains all the components of our vision that you talk about that in the Vision Driven Leader. We have a vision for how we treat our customers, that we want to create a wow customer experience that lives kind of under the marketing section of the vision script. And that means that we take total ownership of the experience that our customers and our clients have, that the end-to-end experience is our responsibility to make excellent. Well, in 2017, when we launched the Full Focus Planner, we created a pre-order campaign for that, had many, many people a part of that. I mean, it was way more successful than we planned on. But as it became time to deliver on the date that we had promised, there was an issue with the fulfillment. And I don't even remember the specifics of what went wrong, but at the time, it was like, oh, shoot, we are going to miss the day that we said we were going to deliver these.
I think it was a manufacturing deadline on the one hand, and then there was also
some kind of shipping issue.
Yeah, some kind of shipping issue.
Yeah. And those two things together, I want to say we were at least a week or two past the date that we had promised, and that's the key word, promised our customers. We ended up deciding to expedite the shipping for those planners at our expense, and it cost us about $40,000, something we didn't technically have to do. I mean, you could say, well, it wasn't your fault, but the truth is, as a matter of integrity, we had taken responsibility for the experience that our customers had, and that was part of our vision. And so we decided to make that investment really in our vision and in our integrity for the sake of our customers, and it was hard.
It was hard, and I think that it's not unusual. It's happened to me a couple times, but when you have a vision, there's always the temptation to somehow, create a shortcut, somehow compromise your integrity, and you can do it in small ways. I mean, we live in a world of compromise, and people say, well, it's a little bit of a gray area. We didn't really promise that, or we didn't get it in writing. But the promise you make to your customer, the promise, if nothing else, that you make to yourself about achieving that vision, you really don't want to compromise that. Your integrity, maintaining your integrity is important. And oftentimes the thing I've seen, again, is that in maintaining your integrity, that becomes the lift that drives the vision forward. So for us, I think, it proved to our team, it proved to our customers that we were serious about this vision related to their customer experience, that we were willing to reach into our own pockets, even if it meant $40,000 we didn't anticipate spending, in order to make good on our word. And that's really what integrity is, making good on our word.
That's right. This is where a vision is so critical, because if you don't have a vision, these decisions are really tough. Like, where do you exercise quote unquote integrity? Where do you hold the line? But if you have a vision that clearly articulates who you say that you are and what you're pursuing, when the real situations pop up and you're making decisions about your customer experience or your products or what kind of marketing you're willing to engage in, it becomes clear really quickly what's in alignment and what's congruent with who you've said you are in your vision and what's not.
Yeah, so vision begins with the burst of inspiration. You get inspired, people join in the emotion, it's exciting, but here comes the resistance. You get buried in whatever it is, cost projections, timelines, design issues, and the how starts to smother the why. And you can begin to see the momentum slipping, and the vision begins to slip out of sight as well. And as the leader, if you don't act, the vision is going to die. And that's the moment that calls for courage.
I've had a story I've actually had many stories like this in my life that have been a moment where I had to exercise courage in service of the vision. And one of the most profound, which I've talked about quite a few times now on the podcast and elsewhere, was my fear of public speaking. And, there came a point where I knew that what was necessary for the achievement of our vision long term was for me to step into a more public role, that I was going to literally and figuratively have to step on stage. And unbeknownst to everybody else, I had a lifelong fear of public speaking, totally debilitating, had avoided it in, some pretty unbelievable ways. And I finally decided, though, that no matter what, come hell or high water, I was going to finally beat this fear, because I was tired of my fear holding me back from what I knew was possible personally, but also what I knew would hold the company back and our vision back if I wasn't brave. So I decided to be courageous. And I think it's important to say, as someone who I feel like struggles with anxiety and, all kinds of fear on a regular basis, that courage never feels brave.
So, sometimes I think when we live by our values and we refuse to compromise our integrity, not only does it prove the vision to our team, but I think it also gives other people the courage to follow through and act with integrity too. Sometimes people know the right thing to do and they just need somebody kind of, even if they're doing it in fear, to go first. And then it gives everybody the inspiration they need to live an integrous life.